Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and today we'll be having a look at another team as part of the Shorty Shortlist series, where we have a look at each and every club in regards to their SuperCoach prospects for 2016. And today it will be the Richmond Football Club, but bear in mind it's not a be-all and end-all sort of preview. We're not going to state the obvious on every single player. I'm not going to be talking about Dustin Martin, your Brandon Ellis, Trent Cotchin, etc., Brett Deledio. We know what they're all about. We know what they can deliver. Certainly we'll be focusing in on them a lot closer comes to the mid to late February and as the season draws even closer. But for now, just a few players that perhaps offer a bit of value, may be a bit left of centre, certainly players that could break out and, next year, of course. So that's what these previews are about, and as I said, we'll definitely hone in on some of the more precise players and positions for your side down the track. But for now, just a few to be keeping on your radar. And as for the Tigers, it's a bit of a tale of the top draft picks, really. I was looking through all these guys, scribing down a few names, and basically all of them are first round picks, which was interesting. And we'll start off with the man who has switched over to the Tigers in the off-season. That's Chris Yarran, and he's a great prospect as far as I'm concerned, but he certainly comes with a fair bit of risk attached to him, which again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know there. He's played forward, he's played back, and at times it looked like he hasn't even wanted to play at all. Chris is a bit of an interesting character. Certainly hasn't had the best footy at times at Carlton. He's shown glimpses of his very best, no doubt, but certainly under certain coaches it hasn't really worked for him, and at times, he's been subbed, he's been injured, he struggled with a foot injury last year. But his raw talent and his raw features, he's a beautiful kick. He's as good a kick as you'll see, and he has that rare ability with his pace. Some players are quick, but Yarran has the ability to just break the lines, break away pace, and he does it without even looking like he's going. He's a bit of a Rolls Royce at his best. At his worst, he's an absolute dead weight player on your list because he can really hold you back. But as I said, he was a number 6 pick back in his day, but that's a while now. We'll look at a few of his numbers. 2011 was somewhat as a mini breakout year as he rolled off the half-back flank. Averaged 87.3 then, and rolling into 2015 he goes 67.7, 66.2, 82.7 and 74.1 last year. And last year was certainly not his finest, hence the move to Richmond. I think he definitely wanted a fresh start, and I think that will be perfect for a player like Yarran. I think if he can get that roll-off half-back, which that'll be the main thing. Look, if Yarran isn't playing down back, if he's a forward, he's not what we want, but you can get him off that half-back line, which I'll focus in. That's what made him the points in 2011. From round 2 to round 14, he averaged 93.2. Taking out that round 1, which was ironically against the Tigers, where he scored 32. Now, he was in my team in that 2011, so I had a pretty close eye on him. And look, he just didn't work hard that round 1 game, and he obviously got a kick up the butt. And after that, he really did get going and averaged that 93.2 off the half-back line. Worked hard, ran hard off his man, got the ball, handball receives, hits targets. That's what he's about. That's what he can do. And I think if he's given that role, which will be one of my clear focuses over the pre-season and NAB Challenge, is watching where Yarran will be playing, because I think down back he's a definite option who can go 90 plus and will be cheaper than a lot of the other players who can do likewise. So one to keep an eye on, no doubt. Now this next man, I'll say his name is Reece Conca, and he's a guy you probably go, gee, Reece Conca, are you serious? But he's growing on me as a prospect. Also a number 6 pick back in 2010. Last year he had some serious injuries and it just didn't work with him. He had hamstring troubles and it just didn't work for him throughout the year. Other injuries as well. The whole body was just struggling, and that has been the case at times throughout his career. He's never really put together full seasons but been a consistent contributor as far as games. Now, he showed a lot of glimpses early on in his career. I remember watching him early in that first season, and his run and dash and carry was impressive and showed a lot of confidence as a young player, as a lot of top picks do. But look, you can get him as a forward and a midfielder, and at 284k, that's something to think about. Played the 2 games last year, but he also played the elimination final. Now he's got the score of, or the average of 58.5, so that puts him at roughly around 284,000. So it's cheapish, it's not absolutely rock bottom. It's sort of around that Daniel Menzel price range, which is an awkward and kind of risky price. So he's shown solid numbers throughout. He's a strong tackler, but he also has historically had a few clangers in there as well. So it's something you need to clean up. Averaged round, his first season 55, then 70, 81.2, 77.8. Of course, last year's average around the 60 mark. So they're from 2012 to 2014, some modest numbers without being great. But I think, look, if he can find a role in the midfield, he must be considered. As far as my team goes, I won't go too far into it yet, but he's sort of competing against someone like Menzel. Now, Menzel I love, as you would have seen in the Geelong preview, but he is a forward. Now, naturally, as a forward compared to a midfielder, midfielders have plenty more opportunities to score points. So, Conca's a man, if he's in the middle and can find his way into what is a strong Tigers midfield, I think he must be considered. Certainly, if he can get his body right and he can find a role in there because he can win his own footy, and if he can tidy his disposal up ever so slightly, then that could be a man you really want to consider. So have a look out for Conca through the pre-season. Andrew Moore, also a man who made the change as Yarran did over to the Tigers. Previously at Port Adelaide, he was a number 9 pick. You can only get him at a midfield status and 267k. I won't spend too much time on Moore for this reason. Throughout his career, since 2010 debuting, these are the games he's played per season: 7, 6, 11, 15, 6 and 5. I'm not sure if finals are included in that. I was just going off the SuperCoach season sort of thing. But they're not great reading, are they? I mean, he's missed a lot of games, he's struggled with his body, and he's probably not going to play a role that SuperCoach is going to be overly friendly to. The reason I talk about him is, he's cheap, he's a top pick, he's showed, glimpses of hard tackling and hard play, contested footy, so you might want to keep an eye out for him, but at this point I'd be saying no, but worth a sneaky look. Another top pick, another number 9 pick, Nick Vlastuin. He's a very impressive talent, and we know that. He hasn't shown a heap as far as scoring, I suppose, but he did in his 4th game of footy against the D's, round 8. He scored 141 SuperCoach from 25 touches. That's quite amazing. 16 marks in that as well. That's quite amazing for a guy so young. He was a midfielder back at Vic Metro when he was the captain there, and known for his toughness, a real hard midfielder, that hard edge, and I think for that reason you have to consider him. When someone's drafted as a midfielder but played predominantly in defence, I think that's something you really got to look at. His mentor is Brett Kirk, has been for, I was at least when he was drafted, not sure if it is now, I wouldn't have thought so, but when he was drafted, Brett Kirk was his mentor at the time. Now, we know how Brett Kirk plays, and we know that Vlastuin, tough inside midfield as a draftee. So will we see that transition in the AFL football? It doesn't always work. He's found his spot off the half-back line and playing a variety of roles in the defence. But look, I would be certainly having a sneaky look at him. I doubt I'll have the courage to pick him, but I just think he's a guy that you might have a look at. Top pick, plenty of talent, plenty of skill. He's a leader, a future leader, and he's shown that he can score given an offensive role. So he's played a variety of roles throughout his career so far, but he's a man you might want to just keep on your radar. Now, Corey Ellis, number 12 pick. Get him as a centre or a forward. 194k, so he's a bit pricier, for the reason being he averaged 35.8 from his 6 games last year. 2 of those involved the sub. Now, in his draft year prior to being drafted, he did have a stress fracture in his foot, so that's slightly concerning, but he did get over that. Hence, that was a bit of a delay in finding his debut and getting plenty of games in his first year, because often you see, those top-end picks really play a lot of footy in their first season. He only played the 6. That's partly to do with the fact that Richmond have such a strong midfield and also that stress fracture there, but look, what are his upsides? Probably the price is quite tasty to have a bit of a look at. 194k, and as a forward, a bit like Reece Conca, if you think he can find midfield time and find a role at the Tigers, I reckon he could be a very, very good option. I'm going to say it, I think he's got a lot of Pendlebury about him. That's a massive call, but he's got the left foot, he's a beautiful kick, and the way he moves as well. I've just looked at him and I've seen a few highlights, watched him play. There's a bit of the Scotty Pendlebury's about him. Now, that's a big call, but I think that's exactly why he's on my radar. Now, the Tigers, when drafting him, identified him as what they felt was the best kick in the draft. So that's what we love to hear as far as SuperCoach is concerned, a good use of the ball. He's still young, he's probably a bit raw, so that's the natural risk that you have. But again, he's probably a man to look out for through the pre-season. I'll just touch on a couple of guys. Jacob Townsend. Now, you can only find him in midfield. I've seen him mentioned a couple of times from the Giants. Played 8 games in 2014. That would have been great if he missed all last year. He would have been cheap as chips, but he's not going to be because he played the last game of last season and scored 80 points. So I've heard a few players say, oh, he's hard inside, could be a tag, could play plenty of games, find some contested ball. Wouldn't be looking at him, put a line through him simply because of his price and the fact he's only a midfielder. It's a bugger that he played that final game and scored an 80, mind you. So otherwise he could have been even cheaper, well, much, much cheaper, and a potential option. And Liam McBean, he's put his hands up at times for that second forward position, and he's a very tall man. He's probably pretty raw in his past seasons. You can select him as a forward at 150k. Played the 2 games last year, but I've heard a lot of Tiger fans speak pretty well about him and say that he could be a player on the cusp, and you know, they've put a bit of time into him. He's got plenty of talent. He's had some really good footy at VFL level, so he could be a player that you might look at, but at the end of the day, he is slightly more expensive than a lot of bargain basement price rookies, and he is a tall option in the forward line. So there are a few things that are going to go against him and probably make him unlikely to feature in many teams. But a few players there Richmond are dishing up to us, and a lot of top round 1 picks, as I mentioned, which is interesting as I went through them. But certainly if I've missed anyone from the Tigers, let me know and tell me anyone you think's going to really explode in 2016, and you know, possibly a couple of valuable players that you should have from the Tigers. Give the video a like as well, give me some feedback, subscribe to the channel. That's so important because I'll be having plenty of SuperCoach stuff coming your way throughout late Jan and early Feb as these previews wind up as SuperCoach for the, well, not SuperCoach Gold subscribers, for the free public. It'll be released pretty soon. We've still got a few to go, so have a look out for them down the track. And as I said, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and always happy to hear your thoughts on the Tigers and SuperCoach in general. We'll chat to you soon, guys.